What's up, Toombas, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is TytheTrainer. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. In today's video, we're going to do some chatting and less moving. So today we're going to talk about some common myths and mistakes as I hear day to day as a personal trainer. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so myth number 1. Fat deposits in certain areas, for example, our abdomen and thighs, can be targeted with strength training via spot reduction. No. To put it simply, yeah, so say for example you got, you're feeling like you want to burn this belly fat and you do a bunch of abs, your body's not going to burn fat in your abs. And that is because people lose fat from adipose deposit areas in reverse order that we've accumulated it from. As well, adipose deposit areas are genetically determined. And that is evidenced by the fact that men, we store our fat in our abdominal region, and women store their fat in their hips and thighs. Thus, the body loses fat in specific areas due to overall genetic factors, not specific spot reduction exercises. And to make an example for you guys, let's say I don't decide, it just happens that I gain some fat in my midsection and then my hips. And I decide to do my abdominal burning or my abdominal exercises to burn those adipose tissue stores. Assuming that I'm burning enough calories through my workouts and whatever else I'm doing through the day with my nutrition, I would lose fat first from my hips and then my midsection, regardless of my exercises performed. And although you can spot train muscles for growth and the impacts of that, you cannot spot train fat to reduce it. Moving on to myth number 2. Women will build humongous, big, bulky muscles through weight training. No. Again, no. In reality, a very small percentage of women possess the genetic potential to experience significant hypertrophy gains. For example, the biggest bodybuilder you can imagine. This is because women are typically smaller framed and they have less anabolic hormones, example, testosterone, than their male counterparts. Keep in mind though, even with the physiological advantages that us guys have, we are also unable to build insane amounts of muscle naturally. So that women should not be fearful of bulking up as a result of regular resistance exercise. Under natural training conditions, women can enhance their muscular strength and size with genetic limitation, but with rare exceptions, they will not naturally develop unnecessarily large or muscular physiques. Alright, now we're going into myth number 3, and that is individuals should use light weights and high repetitions to improve muscle tone and heavy weights and low repetitions, to increase muscle mass. So, back to kind of myth number 2, due to the unfounded fear of bulking up, many women restrict their strength training to light weights and high repetitions to emphasize muscle toning over muscle building. And then on the other hand, you have males that exclusively lift heavy weights with low repetitions to facilitate muscle development. Firstly, it should be restated that genetic factors are largely responsible for individual muscular response to exercise. Second, several studies demonstrated similar improvements in muscular endurance, strength, and size from high repetition to low repetition training. And I just want to quickly show that I'm using my ACE personal trainer manual for the study references. But in essence, to sum up, as long as you're creating enough muscle fatigue, it doesn't matter if you're using light weights or heavy weights. As long as you hit that muscular fatigue, you can produce muscle mass. Okay, myth number 4. At some point, you become too old to lift weights. One of the most amazing things about resistance training is it works about equally well for people of all ages. In a study in my textbook, it was a 10-week strength training study with 1,700 individuals aged from 21 to 80 years old, and a good balance of men and women. And the muscle gains were statistically similar for the ages between 21 and 44, 45 and 54, 55 and 64, and 65 and 80. So fortunately, older muscles are very responsive to progressive resistance training, as evidenced by the nearly 90-year-old nursing home residents who added 4 pounds of muscle in just 14 weeks of basic and brief strength training. So no, you're never too old to lift weights. Alright, chooms, let's travel to the other end of the spectrum for myth number 5. Children are too young to lift weights. Some people believe that kids on resistance training programs can damage their bones or whatnot, but that could be further from the truth. There are numerous studies that children on strength training programs can that they can increase their muscular strength and physical capabilities. The one study in my textbook that stands out to me is there's 9-year-old girls who performed 10 months of simple resistance exercise, increased their bone mass density 4 times as much as the 9-year-old girls that didn't. So it was a 6.2 increase versus a 1.4 increase, which is absolutely crazy. And with regards to the safety of resistance training, there has never been a study that shows growth reduction, skeletal damage, or any substantial injury to note. So youth who perform regular strength exercise may experience numerous health and fitness benefits, including improved cardiovascular risk profile, better body composition, weight control, stronger bones, and more proficient motor skill performance, as well as reduced injury risk and a positive, physiological outcome. So yeah, kids, strength train. It's important. Alright, chooms, the final myth I'm going to be covering today in myth number 6 is after a person stops resistance training, the muscle turns to fat. So not only is that statement untrue, but impossible. Unless you're a mutant and you can, change one tissue into another. So I'm not discriminating if you are a mutant, but most people watching, I'm going to guess, are mortal. So muscle and fat are separate and unique tissues, and one cannot transform into the other. What often occurs is a gain of muscle hypertrophy and a reduction in fat during your training period. Then, if the exercise program is discontinued for whatever reason comes up, can't afford the gym membership, work gets in the way, blah, 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 the muscle mass decreases, which is known as muscle atrophy, and the fat stores increase as a result in the lower non-training energy expenditure. So that makes it look, it appears as though the muscle has turned to fat, but in reality, there is simply less muscle and more, what am I trying to say? There is less muscle and more fat than, the actual conversion of tissues. So if you allow me to offer unsolicited personal trainer advice, you can avoid that situation from happening entirely if you make your training, strength training, like any kind of resistance training, a lifestyle as opposed to a part-time commitment. Periodically, vary that program, but try not to quit it. Keep moving as best as you can. Say an injury comes up, illness, something comes up where you actually have to stop training, you can adjust maybe your calorie intake to prevent the, it won't necessarily prevent all muscle loss, but it will reduce the likelihood of adding unwanted adipose or fat tissue. So, yeah. Well, Choombas, that's all I got for you of the common myths and mistakes on some resistance training as I hear as a personal trainer. thank you so much for hanging out with me on YouTube. I don't know if it'll be up by the time I publish this video, but I am working on my website. So if it is up, please go check it out. And if it's not up, keep posted for it, and I'm sure I'll link it in the future. But I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.